What's up, everyone? I am Wink.
And I'm Skillz.
And this is Scream Cheese. Today we're talking about Arcadian, directed by Benjamin Brewer and starring Nicolas Cage, Jaden Martell, and Maxwell Jenkins. A father and his twin teenage sons fight to survive in a remote farmhouse at the end of the world. Before we get started, if you love horror as much as we do, we would invite you to subscribe to our channel. It would mean a whole lot to us. Let's talk about the movie, man. What did you think about this one? Besides the fact that it gave you motion sickness.
Yeah, so right out of the gate, I gotta address the elephant in the room, which is the shaky cam. Now, I appreciate that aesthetic, but as I've gotten older, it tends to make me a bit sick. So for this particular film, I had to turn the backlight on my TV way down. That seemed to help a bit.
This is not the movie for that though, as it's a fairly dark picture to begin with.
It was a very dark film, but that helped a lot. But here's the thing. I really like this film. I know a lot of people are comparing it to A Quiet Place. There's no denying that similarity, but I really just like the film a lot. I'm a huge creature feature fan, so they got me there. But it was a dynamic between the father and the two sons that really sold me on this film. Their conflict felt very organic to the situation, and I bought all of it. I feel like a lot of times in films, like you have a situation, and obviously you want to have a conflict between the characters, and sometimes you can put things in there that are conflicting and they kind of make sense, but sometimes they don't gel really well. Whereas this felt like, okay, these would be the kind of things that they would be conflicting over, especially the two sons in regards to their father. I thought Nicolas Cage was great. Of course, he's always great, but the reason I liked him so much was going into this, I guess I had an expectation that he was going to play a typical Nicolas Cage character, and yet he was very subdued and he felt very fatherly, and it just shows like how great of an actor he is. He can play this part, be in the background more and let the two younger actors shine, but still portray his role in a very strong way, but just not so loud or not so in your face. I think he totally nailed the part, but again, that's no surprise. And there was like some truly creepy moments. And the thing is, I love all the Quiet Place films, and I'm excited about the new one. And there's no denying the similarities, but I don't have a problem with it because they did such a good job. I heard one other person say this could easily be, with a few changes, like a really good addition to the Quiet Place franchise, and I agree with that. I think it did enough to separate itself, and again, this is a story we've seen many times before, but this was a damn good one in my opinion.
I like this film a lot as well. I loved the handheld cinematography. It felt very kinetic. You mentioned the dynamics among the family. Dude, that is my favorite part of this movie. In the first act, I literally cried when the one son is with the girl in their I think their first scene, and when she says, "Do you have 10 seconds?" Dude, I literally teared up. I'm watching in VR, and I was like, oh my God, man. Your take on Nicolas Cage is absolutely right. Him as a father in this is so good, especially because he is kind of abrasive and rough, and you still don't doubt for a moment that he is loving.
Absolutely. Yep.
Also, Nick Cage has a line in the height of a crisis moment. He says, "This isn't your fault. This is my fault." When it's neither of their fault, but it's like love, dude. Everything is love.
Being the father, being the father and taking the responsibility. Yep.
Exactly. I could just feel the constant tension. I think one of the ways that they manipulated tension better than a lot of movies that I've seen, they're always misdirecting you. You're always looking at the scene you're going into going, I know that the thing's gonna happen, and then something starts to happen, you're like, yep, here's the thing, and then it resolves, and you're like, oh no, it's the other scene, it's the other thing that's happening that they misdirect in a really beautiful way. So for me, these creatures were so good, dude. The design was so good, yet this film was dark enough that I could not tell you what these look like, and I've seen the movie, but they felt like creepy and they felt like they could be really dangerous. But as a negative, they also felt kind of weak. It felt like they were and they weren't at the same time. And then the darkness is totally cool. But I would say there's a portion of this film in the middle that is probably one of the most important kind of inciting incidents that gets us into the back half of the film. And it was so dark, I couldn't really tell you what exactly happened. I get that maybe it was like them budgetary constraints just tied it in the audio, but like I couldn't tell how Nicolas Cage got to the area, and like I couldn't tell what happened there. I could piece it together and I could say, oh, I basically know what happened, but it's such an important point to the film that I think it was more important that even under budgetary constraints, let's simplify it and show us what happens.
I heard another guy comment on it. He was commenting in a negative way, but basically saying like, hey, this is like a crucial point.
Yeah.
And like the son is at one place and the dad is at one place, and all of a sudden the dad's in a different place, and we didn't really see like the transition, like how did this come about? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And
it's that whole scene. So yeah, it is that, but that is only one point. I can almost like forgive that, but then all of the action that happens after that is also consumed in darkness. I can tell you basically what I think happened, but like we didn't see it. You know, we heard it.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of dark moments in this film. Like, I don't know if they did that for budget reasons. It didn't necessarily bother me because for once I was like so involved with the characters. I'm like, you know what? It's kind of old school. We see hints of the monsters, but we don't really know what they look like. But for whatever the reason was, there was definitely moments in this film where it was so dark where you kind of couldn't see precisely what was taking place, you know?
But yeah, dude, I agree that this is kind of a story that we've seen before. It somehow, to me, felt new anyway. I almost wasn't excited to watch it because it was like an end of the world story and we've seen this before. And like, I just didn't feel like doing the same movie over again. And I felt really lucky to get those interpersonal dynamics early in the film that got me hooked in a way where I was like, oh, this feels refreshing.
Man, when you have that character depth, when you have a fully fleshed out relationships between the characters, it's almost like, I don't want to say the creature aspect takes a backseat, but it like enriches everything, because now like I truly care. Like they always talk about in films or in like screenwriting, what's at stake. Well, when it's done right with the characters, you really care now. And A Quiet Place did that like incredibly well, where the character development was so good that you were just completely invested in the story from beginning to end. And I felt like they did a very similar thing with this film. And I appreciate that, because it would have been very easy to say like, we have this creature feature film and we got these characters and they're kind of one-note characters and they kind of have like some issues or whatever, but we're not going to really delve too deeply in that, just focus on like the monsters. And that never makes like a really good, compelling film. Whereas this film, again, you could have probably not even shown the monsters and still had a pretty good film, like just because of the interactions between the characters. It was just done so well.
So what do you give this film, Skillz?
I'm going to give it a 7.5, and the only reason I'm not going to go higher is because it's been done before. I don't know if I heard this correctly, but I think you can Google this, but somebody said Nicolas Cage's agent wrote this script. If that's true, that's interesting, but I know that Nicolas Cage said he wanted to do it because it was his two favorite like genres, like basically horror and sci-fi. But yeah, I hope they make another one. I loved it. I thought it was a really good film. I've seen reviews from people that absolutely hate this movie. I don't know what to say about that. I can't imagine most people putting this on and not like really enjoying it, but for me it was a hit.
All right, rad. I give the movie an 8. I agree with what you're saying. I would love to see a sequel as well. Let us know what you thought of Arcadian. Also, let us know of any other horror movies that we should check out. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you next time. Peace out, cheesers.
Peace.